Our client, RPS, has an existing issue tracking system that we've built for them using Angular and styled with Bootstrap. It's called RPS Project Tracker. They've recently requested a few updates to this application that will make it more user-friendly and add a little bit of functionality. The new requirements specified a dashboard page that shows a summary of issues as well as visualizations of the data in chart format, all with filtering capabilities. The existing backlog list of items is good, but now it needs to be presented in a grid with sorting, filtering, and paging capabilities. On the item detail page, the form could use a little work to be more user-friendly. The drop-down selections should be color-coded and show what is being selected more clearly. Tasks need to have scheduling capabilities too. And the entire item details page should be in a tabbed interface instead of just having buttons switching between screens. We've decided that Kendo UI for Angular will fulfill all of RPS's new requirements and ended up using a few of the many available components and features to make this project a success. On the dashboard page, we've added a Kendo chart and a group of Kendo buttons for filtering data. On the backlog page, we used a Kendo grid so we can fulfill the paging and sorting requirement. The new item form was also made to be more user-friendly with animated hints for the title and description fields. The item detail page got a new tabbed interface with all form controls updated to Kendo as well, which also gave us the ability to easily provide templated dropdowns. And finally, the item task list can now be scheduled thanks to the new Kendo scheduler component. To bring that final polish to the application, we used Kendo's themes to enable a theme that matched our existing application for a seamless look. During the next few chapters, we'll go through the process of updating our plain Angular RPS Project Tracker application to the one that uses Kendo UI and fulfills all the new RPS requirements. You might want to follow along as we progress through this course, and in order to do that, there are 3 projects that you might want to download or clone locally. The first one on this list is RPS API. It's a Node and Express backend that's going to be running locally as we're developing our Angular application. This backend will provide all the data, fake data of course, but it's going to be generated and returned to your Angular application as if it were a real application. I'll show you how to set this up and get going with this in the next lesson. But for now, go ahead and clone this repository or download it. The next project on the list here is RPS Tracker NG, and this is the RPS Tracker application in Angular. This does not have any Kendo UI in it yet, so this is the starting point of our course. If you want to follow along what we're doing exactly, you can download this as your starting point too. And finally, the third item on the list is the RPS Tracker NG_Kendo. This is the final state of our application, the goal that we're trying to get to at the completion of this course. This has all the Kendo UI components, and you can look at it for reference if you run into any trouble. Now, the software you're going to need to have installed in your machine is pretty self-explanatory, but let's go through it real quick here. You're going to need to have Node, and that's the latest LTS version of Node installed. You're going to need to have the Angular CLI because we're using the CLI along with the Kendo UI schematics to add the Kendo components and other features to our application. And finally, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code as my editor here. I highly recommend it as it makes things very easy to develop, especially with TypeScript. However, you don't have to use Visual Studio Code and you can use whatever editor you feel comfortable with. The first project you're going to need to download is this RPS API project. This is the backend or the API that's going to be serving all the requests for the front-end Angular application. Go ahead and clone or download this repository and put it in some local folder where you have your code. Once you have it local, you want to go ahead and run npm install so that it installs all the modules and all the node packages that are defined in the package.json file. I've already done that. And the next step is just to run one of the scripts that's included. So npm run dev. And that's all you really need to do. This will kick up the TS node server and serve the application on localhost port 8080. Let's take a look at the application and what it returns using Postman. Postman is a free tool that you can just use to query the API. So here is the API backlog path that I've specified, and I'm using the get method. And if I go ahead and send this request, the response will have all the generated fake items. that represent the backlog items of the PT tracker application. You can take a look at the folder and the code, but you don't really need to. It's already there and everything is set up for you. But if you're really curious, the RPS API project looks like this. There's a server file and everything is written in TypeScript, and the routes are defined here. The route that we just tried out is this backlog route, and it returns all the current PT items that were generated. Now there's many other routes here. We're going to be using some of the routes that are included here to build up our dashboard and the chart, but I'll specify those when we get to that section. You can just leave this running in the background as you're developing your Angular application. Now, speaking of the Angular application, you can download that here, RPS Tracker NG. This is the starting point, and it's just the Angular application generated with the Angular CLI. I've also already done that, and I've installed the npm modules by running npm install. And now I'm going to use the Angular CLI to start the server, and that's ng-serve. This will go ahead and compile the application and serve it on localhost port 4200. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go to that application, and this is the starting point of our app. So we already have the dashboard page and some issues that are active here, but we don't have the chart yet on the dashboard page. We already have filtering working. However, we don't have the drop-down with the users that we also need to have to add to the filter. So we're going to work on this page, and we're also going to work on the backlog page and the details page as well throughout this course. To get ready for the next few chapters, go ahead and open the RPS Tracker NG, and this is going to be our starting point.